Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'll be teaching us how to make this boo. So as simple as this looks, a lot of people don't cannot make something as perfect as this. So that's why I'm doing this tutorial. Now let's get started. Okay, so I've already folded the adire. Okay, I've already placed it on fold, and I've already drawn my shoulder line. You can see the first line I drew. So that's the shoulder line. Then next thing now is I want to measure the neck depth on the already made lace that I want to use to create the neckline. So I have about 3 inches here, or let's say 3.5 inch. Yeah, because it stretches a little. Okay, so I also want to measure the neck width, which shouldn't be about, it shouldn't be more than 3 inches because it's not so wide. So I have 3.5 inch here, which I'll mark on the fabric. Okay, so I'm just placing it to confirm. That's how to do it. Don't just assume the neckline. You have to measure the neckline on the already made neck piece that you want to use, and then it has to match up with the neckline on the buba. Okay, so now I'm just checking again. Okay, I want to measure the neck width now, which is about 3 inches too. Okay, so neck width 3 inches over there, and neck depth I'm doing 3.5 inch, or say 4 inch, because it's a bit stretchy, right? If you do 3 inches, it might be too tight for the person. So I just create my neckline like this. Then if you notice, there's sort of a keyhole on the neckline, but we're not cutting that now. We'll not cut that now. Okay, won't cut that now, but I want to mark my across back measurement now, 7. Then my shoulder to the chest line. Okay, my shoulder to chest line, I did I think I did about 13 inches, because this dress is cut together with the sleeve, so you cannot use your normal arm circumference measurement. Okay, so this is about 13 inches from the shoulder line there, right? So now I'm going to mark about 2 or 3 inches away from the fold of the edge of the dress, or the fabric rather. Okay, so because the sleeve is cut together, but the distance from where the sleeve is into the armhole is not much, just very little. So I'm just blending in with my curve there. So whatever I have here, I'm going to also measure it on the hemline. Meanwhile, use your hip measurement as a guide. Okay, so for instance, the hip measurement of this person is on fold is 10, but what I have now from the center front to where that armor point is, I think it's about 16 or so, or 18. So that means is wider than the hip circumference, and wide enough for the legs to for you to be able to walk, because it's not a pencil dress, it's a boo. So you can't even use your hip circumference. Okay, you have to add about 6 or 8 inches to quarter of your hip measurement. You understand? So I'm just connecting the hemline to the chest line, or let me say the supposed chest line. Let me adjust my camera a little. Okay, let me just join it first. We'll see it when I finish drawing the line. So I'll just draw the line like this. Okay, and then I still want to blend that armhole very well, the armhole part. Okay, so yeah, I want to blend it properly with my curve. So like I said, as simple as this style is, some people you can't sew this properly. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this tutorial, right? So I'm just blending up there, right? Then next thing is to create the shoulder slants. Or let me just cut out first. Let me cut out so that we can see the shape of the dress. Okay, but okay, I want us to see the hemline actually. That's why I want to fold. So let me just pin this together. Sorry guys, anytime I'm working with a very large piece like this, is always very difficult, because the camera cannot capture everything at once. So, and I want to explain everything into detail. So I'm just cutting out. Okay, so already I have enough excess scissors, so I don't even need to add seam allowance on the side. I have enough excess already. Okay, so this is the skeletal part of the dress. Okay, so now I'm going to use this to cut the back. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to fold another fabric again to cut the back. But before we do that, I want us to draw the shoulder slants. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'm going to measure 1 inch from the shoulder line down to where I have the sleeve opening. Then I'll link that point to my neckline, the tip of the neckline. Okay, so now I don't want to cut the front neckline yet because I want to use this same fabric to cut the back. So what I'll just do is I'll just add my 1/2 inch seam allowance to the shoulder slants. I'll just cut it out, but I won't tamper with the neckline yet because I want to use this to cut the back. Okay, so I'm going to fold my fabric again. So this area, I think it was about 5 yards, so I think I used almost 4 yards for the whole dress itself, and then 1 yard for the scarf. Okay, so I'm just going to pin everything together. I'll pin it together, and like I said, I'm going to fold another fabric and then we'll cut the back. So guys, I've folded another the same fabric. I've already folded again on that. Then I've placed the front on top of it. So now I want to cut the back. It's the same thing. The only difference between the front and the back is just the neckline. Okay, so I'm just going to use this to cut out the back. Okay, so as soon as I finish cutting the back, then I can now start, cutting the necklines separately. So I'll just pin it. I'll pin the fabric so that it doesn't shift. These are just basic sewing. These are basic sewing rules. Okay, pin, cross check your measurement, make sure everything is in place before you start cutting. You can only cut once, right? So now that I've ensured that everything is okay, I'm not going to cut out the back piece now using the front, like I said. So I'm just going to cut out now. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out like so. Okay, cutting out. And mind you, for this type of dress, it's not usually lined. Instead, you use a facing to turn the neckline. We don't line BUBUs, right? So I'm done cutting now. So what I'll do is I'm going to remove the front and I'm going to cut the back neckline. So for the back neckline, it's very simple. The neck width is still the same thing, which is 3 inches, okay, but the neck depth will be 1 inch. So what I'm doing is I'm marking out the 1 inch seam allowance we added to the fabric. So my measurement will start from after the seam allowance. All these little things matter. So this is 3 inches by 1 or 1.5 inch for the neck depth. So I'm just going to use my French curve to draw the neckline. Then when I want to cut, I won't cut exactly on that line. I'm still going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance to it. So this after sewing, it will now fall on the original measurements. Okay, then for the front, it's very simple too. I'll just cut out the neckline, but I'll add 1/2 inch seam allowance, which means I'm not cutting directly on that line. It's as simple as that. So next thing, we're going to cut out the facing for the neckline. Okay, so for the facing, it's very simple. Like I said, okay, so I have placed my remaining fabric under the front neckline. So now don't forget that we're going to create a keyhole. Okay, so I'm just cutting out the initial neckline, which is the 3x3. Then I just measured about like 5 or 6 inches away from the neckline. Okay, from the shoulder, sorry, from the neckline here, you can see where I marked. That is where the facing will end. Then for the depth, okay, I'm going to fold the lace like so and place it like this. Okay, so on the main lace itself, the neckline is as deep as 10 inches. Okay, so but the facing still needs to go beyond that point, to beyond where the neckline ends. So I'll just extend it downward and then I'll draw a line like so. I want to just square it, and then I also square up. So this is going to be the facing for the front. Okay, so I'm just going to cut out, though the facing for the back will not be as long as this because the neckline is high and then there's no keyhole at the back. Okay, so I'm just cutting out the facing for my front like so. All right, so now I'm going to fold my fabric again to cut the facing for the back. So I'm opening up the front for us to see how the facing is going to be placed. Okay, so this is the front here, and then you just place the facing right side facing right side, you pin it together. Okay, but the keyhole will be done later. Okay, to be done later, so I'm just spinning it like so. Now let me show us how to cut the facing for the back. It's very simple, very simple. So I folded my fabric again. Now I want to cut the facing for the back. I'll just simply place the back like so. Make sure it's on fold, please. Then I'm going to pin it together. And like I said, the back facing is going to be a little bit smaller than the front since there's no opening. There's no keyhole at the back rather. So I'll just pin it together. So I just cut out the neckline and then cut about probably 4 or 5 inches away from the neck tip there. Okay, and then the depth about 5 or 6 inches is okay. Like I said, it doesn't have to be long, it's not necessary. So I'll just remove my back pattern like this, and then I'll just cut my facing in form of a square. Okay, in form of a square like this. So the back facing will also be sewn to the back neckline. Okay, so this is the back here. I'll just open it up. I'm going to place the facing on top, right side facing right side of the facing, and I'll also pin it, and then we're going to be sewing around the neckline with 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so it's as simple as that. Now, so guys, now I've sewn the neckline of the front. Now I want to create the keyhole for the front. So what I'll do is, okay, yeah, I'm gonna draw a line on the center front like that. Sorry guys, I'm not yet sewn it yet, but I've just pinned it down. Okay, so I will first of all sew around the front neckline. When I do that, then I'm gonna mark 1/2 inch on both sides of the line. Meanwhile, I'm marking where I want the neckline to stop. Okay, so from the shoulder line to that point where I marked is about 9 inches. Anything longer than that, the cleavage is going to be showing. Okay, but that's a preference. It depends on what you want. So I've marked 1/2 inch on both sides of the BUBU, right? So I'll sew around first, and I'll just sew in form of a V. Okay, so once this is my front here. I've already turned the neckline. Okay, and this is the back. You see how it is. So I'll just go and sew with 1/2 inch on both sides of the shoulder. Okay, now I've done that already. Okay, now I will place the lace. Okay, it's a ready-made lace. So you place it in such a way that the edges of the lace will cover the seam line on the shoulder line. Okay, then for the keyhole part here, you also make sure that the edge of the lace should cover the fabric. So when the person wears it, we're just seeing the lace, we're not seeing the edge of the fabric. Okay, so you just place it. Meanwhile, if you look at the video carefully, you see that the depth of the neckline on the lace is still deeper than the neckline on the dress. That was intentional because the owner of the dress didn't want something that would be too revealing. So now, as it is, I'll just go ahead now. After pinning, I'm going to stitch the lace on the shoulder seam. Okay, I'll make sure the lace is covering the shoulder seam on both sides, and then I'll also stitch down from the opening on the neckline here. Meanwhile, you have to pin first. If you don't pin it, the lace might not align properly. So after pinning, I'll just go and sew. Now I finished sewing it. That's the neckline and the shoulder seam. Next, now we'll just go ahead and sew the lace onto the dress, and I'll follow all the edges of the lace. Okay, I'll just sew it following the edges, and then I'll sew the side seam. So let me show us the outcome. Now this is how the BUBU looks like. If you like, you can add a cover, like a button or a hook on the neckline there. It depends on what you want. Yeah, so I guess we learned one or two things from this tutorial. Kindly give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment and reaction, and very importantly, subscribe and share. Bye bye.
No, she won't pay you.